Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms or courtrooms. They happen in the shadows of family secrets, where loyalty is a weapon and dignity is the price of survival. This is the story of how I stood up to a legacy of control and betrayal, lost everything I thought mattered, and found a strength no one could take away. Amanda Sinclair never sought to become a symbol of defiance. She had built her company, CoreView Analytics, from the ground up, bootstrapped, self-funded, and fueled by grit. Located in the Innovation District of Boston, her firm specializes in ethical data analysis for nonprofits and mid-sized companies navigating complex policy landscapes. Her work was precise, impactful, and above all, uncompromising. She was known, in her circles, not just for her success, but for how she earned it, with integrity. But as anyone who has ever achieved something without compromise knows, it puts a target on your back. Especially in elite circles where compromise is currency. It was at a Cambridge alumni mixer, of all places, where she first met Ethan Walker. He was magnetic in that easy, well-practiced way that came from years of being groomed for legacy. His family's name, Walker, was etched into Boston's old money elite. Banking, pharmaceuticals, and now tech. There wasn't an industry they hadn't influenced. But Ethan, charming and sharp, seemed different. They met discussing climate tech. He'd recently started a sustainable finance initiative under his family's hedge fund. Amanda, ever the skeptic, challenged him. He liked that. Their banter turned into coffee, coffee into dinners, dinners into a relationship. For a while, it felt like a meeting of equals. Ethan made her feel seen, celebrated, even admired. But as Amanda's world began to intertwine with his, the cracks appeared. It started with Judith. Judith Walker, Ethan's mother, was the kind of woman who could enter a room and silence it. Regal, cold, and unapologetically proud of her family's legacy, she viewed Amanda not as a partner, but as a potential liability. Judith didn't speak in insults. She wielded implication like a scalpel. Her first words to Amanda, over a white tablecloth, "Brunch in Beacon Hill," were, "So you work with charities. How noble." Amanda smiled politely. "We believe ethical data interpretation can drive real change." Judith sipped her mimosa. "Of course, and that's a lovely passion." The war had begun. Ethan tried to play diplomat. "Mom's just old-fashioned." He encouraged Amanda to give her time, to let her see Amanda's worth. But time only sharpened Judith's disapproval. Still, Ethan proposed. It happened one summer evening on Martha's Vineyard. A secluded cove, a candlelit dinner, and a sapphire ring designed in Paris. Amanda, caught in a rare moment of surrender to the fantasy, said yes. For the next month, Judith's tone changed. It became saccharine, compliments laced with threats. She offered to help with wedding arrangements, nudging Amanda toward a guest list filled with old money names, suggesting she wear her great-grandmother's veil. Then came the prenup meeting, held in the Walkers' law firm's private suite, floor to ceiling. Windows, oak paneling, power-dressed attorneys. Amanda sat across from a document that was less a prenuptial agreement and more a dossier on her perceived inadequacies. It wasn't about protecting Ethan's wealth. It was about asserting dominance. Clauses included lifestyle restrictions, family approval on key business decisions, and, most shockingly, a demand for a $200,000 dowry-equivalent contribution to a family heritage fund. Amanda looked at Ethan. "You said this was standard procedure." "It is, for our family," Judith interjected, calm and lethal. "Surely if you truly love Ethan, these aren't unreasonable asks." Amanda stood. "If you truly understood love, you'd..." "No, it never starts with a price tag." Ethan tried to follow her out, but Amanda didn't look back. What followed was a whirlwind. The engagement called off, mutual friends taking sides, whispers in business circles about Amanda being difficult, but she refused to bow. What she didn't expect, however, was what came next. Judith Walker wasn't content with Amanda simply walking away. No, she wanted Amanda broken. CoreView Analytics started receiving negative press, false claims of data mishandling, and anonymous tip-offs to regulatory bodies. Clients began to call nervously. Amanda traced the source to a shell PR firm linked, indirectly but unmistakably, to a Walker-owned holding company. That's when Amanda made her decision. She wasn't going to just survive this. She was going to expose it. The days following my firm no to Judith Walker's demand were filled with silence. Sharp, deliberate, and chilling. Ethan, once attentive and quick to text, became a ghost. No good morning messages, no calls. Just silence. It was clear that Judith had pulled the strings, and he had obediently fallen into line. My refusal to pay for a diary, a symbolic but pointed rejection of her dominance, had not just upset her, it had declared war. I expected fallout. What I didn't expect was how immediate and personal it would become. 2 days later, my client, from a venture capital firm who had previously expressed interest in a partnership, called to inform me they were backing out. No clear reason. Just internal restructuring. Another promising deal with a boutique tech accelerator suddenly stalled, citing concerns raised during informal discussions. It didn't take a genius to connect the dots. Judith wasn't content with rejection. She was ensuring I paid for it. Ethan finally reached out, sort of. A single-line email. Can we talk? I think there's been a misunderstanding. I deleted it without responding. Instead, I did what I'd always done. I doubled down on my work. We were in the final stages of developing a cybersecurity feature that used adaptive AI to detect social engineering threats, a groundbreaking tool for small and mid-sized businesses. Our beta tests had already shown success, and I was preparing to pitch at an industry conference in DC when the second blow landed. Our lead investor called me in for a routine meeting. He greeted me with a concerned look, not the usual handshake. "I'm going to be honest with you, Amanda," he said, folding his hands over the table. "There's a lot of noise circulating about your judgment, about you mixing personal and professional lines." "Judith, she's been making calls, hasn't she?" I asked bluntly. He didn't confirm, but the pause said enough. "She's very well connected. Her version of events paints you as impulsive, emotional, that your actions put potential investors at risk." I leaned in. "And what version is that? That I refused to pay a bribe disguised as a family tradition? That I wouldn't fund an antique diary to prove I belonged?" He winced. "Amanda, no," I cut him off. "Let me be clear. If losing her favor means retaining my ethics, then I'll rebuild from scratch. But I will not bend." He respected that, reluctantly. He didn't pull out, but he warned me. "Expect turbulence." The turbulence came fast. Ethan showed up at my office unannounced, face pale, eyes puffy like he hadn't slept. "My mother's gone too far," he said. "I didn't know she'd go after your business." "You didn't stop her," I replied coldly. "I didn't think it would get this bad. Look, I told her I didn't agree, but you didn't say it to me. You disappeared." He sat down heavily in the chair opposite my desk. "I love you, Amanda, but she's my mother. I thought we could just ride it out, wait until she calmed down." I gave a bitter laugh. "You still think this is about moods? This is about control, Ethan. And your silence gave her a green light." He looked away, guilt written all over his features. "Then tell me what to do. I'll fix this." "You can't," I said. "This isn't a PR crisis. This is about values." He reached for my hand across the desk. "What if we go away for a while? Get some distance. Start fresh." I didn't pull my hand away. Not immediately, but the voice inside me, the one I had silenced for too long, was clear now. "No, Ethan. I don't want distance. I want dignity. I want a partner who doesn't need his mother's permission to stand by me." He left that day, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever see him again. Over the next few weeks, things worsened. Anonymous tips were sent to my board, questioning my leadership. Comments appeared on articles that featured my company, suggesting insider favoritism, conflicts of interest. Rumors spread that I had used intimate relationships to secure funding. It was textbook character assassination. Taylor, my oldest friend and editor at the Boston Business Journal, called me one night. "Amanda, I'm going to be real with you. Someone's trying to kill your reputation." "I know," I said. "I'm putting together a counterpiece. Ethics in entrepreneurship. I want to feature you." I don't want to look like I'm fighting back in the press, I replied. Then don't. Just tell the truth. Let your work speak. Her piece was brilliant. A profile on ethical leadership that didn't name names, but anyone familiar with Boston's business circles could read between the lines. It positioned me not as a victim, but as a standard bearer, someone who chose principles over appeasement. That article triggered an unexpected chain reaction. I began receiving emails from other entrepreneurs, mostly women who had had their own experiences with powerful families and gatekeepers demanding submission for access. One woman wrote, "Reading your story gave me the courage to turn down a partnership I knew wasn't right. Thank you for being visible." Another, a startup founder from Chicago, said, "They told me I'd never raise funding unless I played along. I walked away. Best decision I ever made." Their stories became a balm, a reminder that I wasn't alone, and more importantly, that I wasn't wrong. 3 months after the diary incident, something I never expected happened. Richard Walker, Ethan's father, reached out. He asked for a meeting at a modest cafe on the outskirts of the city, far from the polished marble halls of the Walker estate. He looked different, less polished. The kind of man who had recently stared at a mirror too long and didn't like what he saw. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, genuinely. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I've spent the last 30 years convincing myself Judith's power. Plays were necessary. That the price of influence was submission. But watching how she treated you," he paused. "It made me realize I've enabled a bully. And worse, I taught my children that silence is safety." "I didn't know what to say," he continued. "I left the house, moved into a small place, started therapy. It's humbling. But I need to make amends." "You're not responsible for your wife's behavior," I said. "But you're responsible for your silence." "I know. I want to help, if you'll let me. There are people she's intimidated into backing away from you. I can reopen those doors." I considered it. "Only if you do it without expectation. I'm not looking for favors. I'm looking for fairness." He nodded solemnly. That's more than she ever offered anyone. The support that followed was quiet, but meaningful. Doors reopened. Partnerships once threatened began to return. My company's reputation stabilized, then grew. Our platform launched. And within 6 months, we secured a national contract with a chain of medical providers, a massive vote of confidence in both our technology and our ethics. And Ethan? He reappeared. Changed. Or so he said. "I've been in therapy. I've been learning a lot," he told me one day, nervously standing at my doorstep. I let him talk, let him apologize. He even admitted things I never knew, how his mother used money to manipulate his education, his friendships, his relationships. "I want to be different," he said. "I want to fight for what matters." I looked him in the eye. "Then fight. But not for me. Fight for yourself." I closed the door with a kind of peace I hadn't known before. That night, I wrote a letter to myself. Not the kind you send, but the kind you need to read. "Amanda, you did it. You chose yourself. You walked through fire and came out whole. You don't need a diary to prove your worth. You wrote your own story, and it's worth far more than any antique book." The months following Ethan's tentative return were a test, not just of him, but of me. His words of change were promising, but the wounds Judith had inflicted ran deep. I had learned that genuine transformation requires more than apologies. It demands consistent action and time. Ethan's efforts were sincere, but tentative. His visits to my apartment became more frequent, his conversations less guarded. He spoke openly about his therapy sessions, the difficult realizations about his mother's toxicity, and the years lost to her control. But I remained guarded. I wasn't ready to let go of the pain his family had caused me, nor to risk my hard-won dignity on fragile promises. Still, the possibility of healing was there. Richard Walker's unexpected alliance became a source of strength. He was an outsider to the family's toxic inner circle now, a man stripped of pretense and eager to make amends. We met regularly in modest cafes or quiet parks, places far removed from the ostentatious Walker estate. His insights into the family's history revealed patterns I hadn't known. Decades of manipulation disguised as tradition, power masquerading as duty. "You were never the problem," he said one afternoon as we sipped coffee beneath the rustling maples. "Judith built walls that trapped us all, but you found a way through." Our conversations drifted from family dynamics to business ethics, to the future of my company and the industry at large. Richard's openness was refreshing. Unlike Judith's demands for control, he offered support without expectation. Through him, I began to see that the ripples of my stand against Judith were extending beyond my own life. The Walker family's influence was vast, but the walls were beginning to crack. Ethan's sister-in-law, Jennifer, had enrolled in business school, a move previously forbidden by Judith, who insisted women in the family's orbit focus on social duties rather than careers. Jennifer's decision sent a clear message. The old rules were no longer sacred. Two other Walker's in-laws renegotiated their roles in family businesses, demanding respect and active participation rather than silent, subservient involvement. The shifting dynamics sent tremors through the family's social and business circles. Even my own company gained unexpected recognition. The Boston Business Journal, where my friend Taylor worked, published a feature on companies that maintained ethical business practices despite pressure from larger, more powerful entities. The article didn't name the Walkers, but the implicit contrast was clear. My company was highlighted for valuing partnership over power, integrity over expedience. This visibility brought invitations to speak at business schools and entrepreneurship conferences. My signature message became, "Success built on compromise. Values isn't success. It's failure in disguise." 9 months after the confrontation that had changed everything, I attended a technology conference in San Francisco. It was there that I met Marcus, a founder of a cybersecurity firm whose values mirrored my own. Our connection was immediate, intellectual, and personal. Marcus asked thoughtful questions about my journey without condescension. When I shared the Ian Walker story, he responded simply, "That's their loss and my gain. Anyone who can't see your worth at face value doesn't deserve access to it." Our relationship blossomed slowly, grounded in mutual respect and understanding. There were no tests of loyalty based on family ties, no demands for financial proof of commitment, just two equals building something meaningful. 1 year after my confrontation with Judith, I attended an industry gala in Boston. The room buzzed with familiar faces, but one encounter caught me off guard. Ethan appeared, accompanied by his new girlfriend, a woman from a family wealthy enough to satisfy Judith's standards. He approached me near the bar. "Amanda," he said, his voice subdued but sincere. "You look well." "Thank you. So do you." An awkward silence stretched between us before he finally spoke. "I've been meaning to tell you. You were right to stand up to my mother. We were both wrong." His gaze was steady. "I appreciate what you've done. Your company's doing amazing things. That new security platform is brilliant." I nodded. "Thank you. I heard you're heading up the European division now. Congratulations." He hesitated before adding quietly, "She still talks about you, you know. Mom, she'll never admit it, but you're the only person who ever stood up to her. And won." As he walked away, I felt only calm certainty. I had escaped a life that would have slowly eroded my self-worth. Later that evening, I accepted an Industry Innovation Award for our cybersecurity platform. Standing at the podium, I looked out at my peers and shared the lesson I had learned. Success isn't just about building something valuable. It's about refusing to devalue yourself in the process. Sometimes the most important business decision you make is walking away from the wrong opportunity, the wrong partnership, or the wrong relationship. The Walker experience reshaped both my personal and professional life. I became more discerning about partnerships. I learned to recognize early warning signs of power imbalances. I embraced my worth with confidence. My company adopted a strict ethics policy that prohibits boundary violations, like those Judith had tried to impose. We walked away from deals that came with strings attached, no matter how lucrative they were. Above all, I learned that true strength often lies not in fighting hardest, but in knowing when to walk away. The $200,000 diary might have been financially manageable, but the cost to my dignity would have been incalculable. One day, the right relationships, both personal and professional, will value you not for what you can pay, but for who you are and what you bring to the table. Never settle for less than the respect you deserve. Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship or business opportunity that came with unacceptable conditions? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize your worth, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself in both personal and professional situations. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember, your dignity is never for sale.